Hello, Stormwater designers. Welcome back to Clear Creek Solutions hydrology education videos. Today we're doing another one. We're going to be looking at hydrologic floodplains. What are they? What are their functions? How are we looking to restore these hydrologic floodplains in the future? And just some overall background and information on this facet of hydrologic design and hydrology. So here's some of the sources I pulled from. You can check it out if you want more information on the floodplains, but I did get a lot of my information from these sources, so you can go check them out there. And so let's go over an overview of the hydrologic floodplains. So it's defined as the land adjacent to the base flow channel residing below some form of bankful elevation. And we will have some diagrams here coming up. It is inundated in about 2 years out of 3, and not every stream corridor has some form of hydrologic floodplain. And so with regards to topographic floodplain, the land adjacent to the channel, including the hydrologic floodplain and other lands up to an elevation based on the elevation reached by a flood peak of a given frequency, for example, the 100-year floodplain. And so professionals involved with flooding issues define the boundaries of a floodplain in terms of the flood frequencies, or the probability of reoccurrence in years. Thus, the 100-year and 500-year floodplains are commonly used in the development of planning and regulation standards. So here's a diagram here of the floodplain, so you can see the runoff accumulating at the bottom of this bankful elevation. And really, it's another form of mitigation from a large stormwater event or a flood, and it's a natural mitigation method as opposed to building some form of a vault or tank or detention pond. This is a natural way for the water to flow during a very large storm event, as we mentioned, a 100-year or 500-year storm event. And so you can see the topographic floodplain, the hydrologic floodplain, and so the bounds of that are going to be defined by the volume of the flood or the storm event. And so floodplains provide temporary flood storage, and this adds to the lag time of the flood. So if you're looking at a hydrograph or standard hydrograph, obviously not always speaking in terms of continuous simulation hydrology, but lag time is the amount of time added, like I said, the difference between the event and the peak flow. It can add to this time, making the flood less likely to be a flash flood or accumulate quite quickly. If a stream's capacity for moving water and sediment is diminished, or if the sediment loads produced from the watershed become too great for the stream to transport, flooding will occur more frequently and the valley floor will begin to fill. And valley filling results in the temporary storage of sediment produced by the watershed. So here's another diagram of hydrologic floodplain. You can see some of the different submerged soil or submerged topographic features here, the evaporation occurring, and then some of the surface runoff. And so you will get some of those sediment beginning to fill those floodplains, and that may reduce the overall volume of it, but it's just going to be the natural occurrence of that runoff from the storm event. And so floodplains can moderate the effects of stormwater events, and during extreme flood events or debris flow events, high flows spread across floodplains where they are slowed by vegetation. So literally, because the water is being dispersed across this vegetation, it's going to slow and moderate the effects of that event and retain temporarily as surface storage, and is released over time through groundwater infiltration. So through the infiltration, we're going to eventually get that stormwater, or it's going to evaporate into the atmosphere. But it's going to just moderate all the effects of that flood, as opposed to there being a lot of impervious surfaces that have to go to detention facilities. There's not going to be as much dispersion because you don't have as much surface area to cover. And connectivity can be compromised by modifications to the channel, such as alterations and changes in the land use. And obviously there's going to be deposited soils and different sediments in those floodplains. So many topographic features are formed on the floodplain by the lateral migration of the channel. These features result in varying soil and moisture conditions and provide a variety of habitat niches that support plant and animal diversity. And so floodplain landforms and deposits can include meander scroll, a sediment formation making former channel locations, a chute, a new channel formed across the base of a meander. As it grows in size, it will carry more of the flow. And here's just some of the other ones: Oxbow Lake, clay plug, natural levees, splays, which are delta shaped, and then back swamps, a term used to describe floodplain wetlands formed by natural levees. So here's some real life pictures and examples of floodplains here, right? You can see a lot of water covering a natural land space here, and eventually flooding that, but it is a form of mitigation from that flood. And then here's another example. Here you can see different chutes, different levees here being formed naturally from these storm events here. And so A point of focus has been floodplain restoration. So floods are an integral part to maintaining some of these healthy rivers. Small floods are very important to the health of rivers and the land around it. They nurture life in and around the rivers, obviously for the wildlife and to keep the flow going in these freshwater rivers. The fish, wildlife, and plants that live in or along the river or floodplain often need floods to survive and reproduce because they need ample water, very important part of the life cycle. And during big floods, healthy floodplains benefit communities by slowing and spreading dangerous floodwaters that would otherwise flood riverside communities, harming people and property. Healthy floodplains are nature's flood protection, and giving rivers room to move is our best protection against floods and is a great way to help keep rivers healthy. If you don't have a lot of floodplain room, you have a large storm event, then the rivers are really not going to have a lot of wiggle room in terms of flooding your local development or the local population and causing damage. So many have researched restoring floodplains for stormwater mitigation. Dams, levees, and other structures often fail and may give citizens a false sense of security. So the same man-made structures sometimes fail and aren't built properly. We've seen that tragically happen. And when you have additional floodplain room, it can just give you some wiggle room, a threshold to make sure those events don't damage the local areas. Floodplains naturally filter the stormwater as well and may help prevent flooding in vulnerable areas. This is very important because as the water flows across the natural vegetation, it is going to actually do a very good job at filtering the stormwater. And planting native plants can bring back the native habitat, which is better able to support native fish and wildlife in the region. So that's an overview of floodplains. We have a hydrology terms guide you can download for free. You can find that in the description box down below. It contains over 3 pages of hydrology terms that you might use in your job or your studies. And so you can get that in the description box if you want to learn more about different hydrology terms. Other than that, we will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.